Greetings, this is Vane and welcome back to Let's Play Per Aspera Green Mars. Okay, so we're playing the Carmine storyline, and having defeated the human colonies in the previous episodes, we are now working on creating a seed chips. So, a little bit more expensive than we once were, having purged all the pesky humans. We're just sort of letting you build up at the moment. I mean, one thing that may or may not be to your liking is the amount of waiting in the game. I mean, the early game is quite good and quite engaging, as well as setting up and connecting your resources. But like most reviews says, the late game basically comes down to a lot of waiting. And waiting for basically terraforming bars to go up or down, or for other things to finish. Like I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing if you don't mind that sort of style of play, but if you're looking for a more engaging experience, then this may not be for you. I mean, most of the reviews for Per Aspera have cited the same thing, so I know I'm not the only one. I mean, I wouldn't say that's particularly a negative. I mean, a lot of simulation games just come down to waiting, simply because that's what they're a simulation of. And most of the time, the idea is to try and get that balance where you're stable and not doing anything. So waiting is generally a good thing, as it indicates that you are actually succeeding at the game, more or less, as long as you are waiting and the simulation is doing what you want it to do, i.e. if you advance in that counter that you want to advance. So and Blue Mars is having a mixed reception. Part of it is because Blue Mars is the first paid DLC for the game, and what it appears to add, although the DLC is cheap, raises concerns as to why it wasn't in the base game. I mean, as a DLC, it's incredibly lackluster. It seems to be incredibly lackluster, because while it does add new resource buildings and new buildings, most of them are aquatic versions of existing buildings, so the gameplay's not really changed. Apparently you get stuff to allow you transport on the water, which is better than transport by land. I mean, drone hubs and landing sites only have one drone per area, which is a bit of a oversight, because apparently barges and shippings, they not only do you not have to worry about shipping lanes, because they can just go from one to the other across the water regardless, apparently they can also have multiple barges, so yeah. There is a port or dock or something, apparently, allowing for interchange. But a big flaw appears to be that you can't convert buildings to aquatic buildings. So although you can now build mines for mining sites in the water, you have to destroy the land site first, which means that for buildings that need to be placed near the coast, just like water treatment plants, as the water level rises, you end up destroying them. Which is probably a bit of a significant oversight when you think about it, considering the game's about terraforming and raising the water levels as part of that process. So you'd expect them to have some sort of technology, if they can build something so it can survive underwater, that they'd incorporate that into existing buildings. So yeah, That said, I mean, this is a good game. If you like this game, then, well, you don't need my permission, but you should most definitely feel free to pick it up. I'm not sure if I will. I probably wait until, well, not so much that it's on sale, but more that I've got some free cash before picking up Blue Mars. Really depends if I'm going to play this again. And then go for the complete package, and that's the big old the big thing with the DLC, really, is that it really is feels like it's a complete package type deal, considering over half the planet is water by the end of it. I mean, there's no real significant change in mechanics, so and apparently absolutely no storyline change either. So I'd say most definitely a kind of, yeah, situation. If you've got a spare cash and want to support developers for an interesting game, then feel free to do so. Again, this seems to be a similar sort of situation to Hammerting. But at least, well, maybe not, because this has got paid DLC, as it were. Unfortunately, I've got a huge backlog of things to pick up yet. I picked up Dungeon Village, the first Kairosoft game, and that is, well, I played that to death on my Android phone, and the game itself seems to be a more or less direct port. There's a few changes, but they're for the PC, but it's very minimal, to the point that I'm kind of, well, the fact that it's not been scaled to higher resolutions is a bit much, a bit extreme, because the sheer graphics of it on a 1900 resolution for widescreen sure makes you realise just how different the resolution of smartphones is to current PC. So if I do record that, I'll probably try and find a lower resolution to record that in, just to make that more comfortable. I mean, the gameplay itself is intact, so in terms of gameplay, nothing there, totally worth the money. It's just that well, pixel art is good, but it doesn't scale very well unless you're doing crisp lines and being kind of iconic, i.e., take the original Mario, for example. Mario is recognisable, and a big picture of Mario on your wall can be considered pretty classy, but you wouldn't want it. But you'd want to have crisp lines and to show the pixels, rather than just it being looking like a very, very blocky Mario. You know, as in, is done intentionally to be at that resolution rather than just blown up and upscaled. So like I say, I'll probably find a resolution, a desired resolution to record that in, because I think even if I was to go switch to a lower resolution, it would still be pretty big, unless I create a custom one for it. Of course, that does mean the videos are likely to be smaller and quicker to upload, so if I do that, and it will be interesting dealing with the mouse, simply because the mouse replaces where you're touching, but doesn't quite have the finesse that an actual touchscreen would have. I mean, they're ideally suited for touchscreen pads and laptops, I think. But again, that's more because it is literally a direct port from the Android version. But I think if I pick up a Kairosoft game every time I get paid as a treat, that would be fine. a way to manage my library and not end up spending more money than I can afford and stuff I don't really need. Well, saves me spending it on sweets, right? And everyone's got to have some guilty pleasure, sure. Where's the fun otherwise? What else is there? Oh, I think it's a day before the new Stellaris update. At the time of recording, it'll be out when this goes up. I think by the time this goes up, it'll be about a month old. So, yeah, I'll be looking at getting that DLC. I mean, I'll catch up with some of the other DLC that I've not got. But all told, yeah, just get this out of the way. Yeah, all told, you know, I might just wait for the next update. I mean, the good thing about the Custodian initiative is that they're planning on updating the game every 3 months, which is, well, I think they're planning on having it so they can update it in between DLCs. So if they plan a DLC every 6 months, then they can do 2 updates in that time, which is cool because it gives them time, and I like that model of development. I'm happy to support that model of development for games that I actively play and support. At the time of recording, well, I've recorded enough Per Aspera content that is now overtaken what I have buffered for UFO Aftershock. So it's going to be quite fun going back to that. And since we're near the end of Per Aspera, I think I might finish this off. Then try and finish off Aftershock, or at least to get more going. And then see about what to do next. I've got a couple of options in mind. I'm thinking for the big game I might try and give Morrowind a go. Not Morrowind, yeah, nearly got everyone excited then. That's because I've been talking about Morrowind with a friend of mine who's played Skyrim. I haven't actually ever played Skyrim. It's the only game in the Elder Scrolls series I don't have because I never managed to grab it on sale when I had the money and I just had other things to buy and play. So quick shout out to one of my subscribers who is currently wading through my Baldur's Gate series. You can see him. He's the one apart that isn't Oro that comments on all the posts asking questions that I've done my best to answer. The fact that he's got the playlist queued up and it is one of my longer ones is quite impressive. But then that's a big part of why I like doing older games, especially role-playing games, because it's not the sort of content you'll see people doing let's plays of these days. I mean, most let's players are busy doing like Songs of Conquest, which has just come out in early access, and it looks like an updated version of Heroes of Might and Magic 3 and seems pretty cool. I mean, as someone who really enjoyed Heroes of Might and Magic 3 and 4 and 5 for that matter, with them definitely being on my Let's Play list. After all, it was Heroes of Might and Magic 3 and Meridian that got me started into Let's Playing, and my first Let's Play that I completed was the original Heroes of Might and Magic. If only because Meridian hadn't covered it at the time. So in a way, I probably wouldn't be here doing this. Although, you can hear, that does lead to the inevitable moan about how YouTube has kind of screwed over early content creators without established audiences, which has driven a lot of people to Twitch, and streaming, but I'm not up for streaming personally. I like this style. I mean, I have enough trouble focusing on the games and commenting just to me, let alone responding to chat for long periods of time. So yeah, but as I was saying, I am thinking I'm going to do Elder Scrolls Arena next. I'd already tried one playthrough before my move several years back, so I know people enjoyed it. I enjoy it. Never actually completed it. I think last time I was playing as a ranger, although that's not particularly the sort of character that I play. I tend to play sword and board fighters. They're my go-to characters normally. Mostly because they're simple to play. They're quite casual, quite tanky. And what's interesting is, because it wasn't until Daggerfall when you could customize and create your own classes, and which opened up the you can be anything you want to be model, leading to characters who pretty much can do everything with enough work. Morrowind was kind of balanced between not Morrowind, the original Elder Scrolls had the class system just like D&D, but was sort of balanced that magic users couldn't wear armor, which is the same as D&D, but the only form of armor that can be magical in the game, that can be enchanted, is plate mail. So if you playing a rogue or similar stealthy character, then you also could not get magical armor, but you also wouldn't have access to spells. So in a way it's a bit like having potentially more magic item slots. So I'd probably go with a character like a knight. Which suits me down to the ground. So that is probably what I will do next for my big game. Once UFO is finished. I will probably do Dungeon Village. I've actually been, apart from Per Aspera, playing a lot of a Pokemon Metroidvania cross called Monster Sanctuary. And I managed to get Loop Hero cheap, which I've been playing as well. So I might do that to replace Per Aspera instead of jumping into another Stellaris. Although technically, I was doing enough for my 3 streams approach, but to be honest, I think I'm better off limiting myself to just 2. Because I can do that and still have a life. So I think sadly the Sims stuff is probably gonna go. But I mean, that's also because just thinking about setting up the Sims 2 for recording is just, it's like, really? Don't get me wrong, The Sims 2 is a great game, but it's not on my system to play, and so I haven't got it set up on here. And the thought of testing and recording, I mean, once I've done it, I've done it. It's just I've been putting it off. Because I know that would be specifically for recording, and that's like a whole new another commitment. And I'm far too stubborn to just skip it and go straight to The Sims 3. Well, I say stubborn, there's a lot of innovation. I mean, and I'm still quite salty that I couldn't do the original Sims with the separate expansions. I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, I don't have the complete collection, but I'd definitely pick that up if I had it. But there's a lot of content to get straight in, and like I said, the game changed a lot after Hot Date. And that's what really set the tone for a lot of the later games, to be honest. I mean, that's one of the problems with patching these days, is that you don't get to see the original games. If a game patches and changes and has significant changes and improvements, you don't really get to experience the original version of the game as released, which means, I mean, sure, you don't have to deal with all the bugs, but likewise, you don't, if the gameplay changes for the worst, then you don't really get to enjoy the original. And also, for many people, you don't appreciate what the game started at and how much it's been improved. I think a big part of games like Stellaris is that someone coming in now, or as I did, I think 3 years ago, off when you already had several expansions, doesn't necessarily appreciate just how much development time has gone into a game like Stellaris. And that's why you can you can see it with Civ 7, for example, because if you're using the expansion model but you don't install the expansions, then quite often you can still play with the earlier rule sets. But even then, the final balance patch update still applies. So units like the Trebuchet, for example, that weren't in the original game are now included because they were included as part of that update. Is the Trebuchet? Was it the Trebuchet? Yeah, I think it was the Trebuchet. Whereas you don't get things like line infantry, or was it? No, not line infantry, pike and shot, which was added as the expansions. Oh yeah. Not sure what's going on with Civ at the moment. I think everyone's expecting Civ 7 to be announced pretty soon, because Firaxis have been silent for the best part of a year. So by now we'd have heard either an expansion pack or a new content season pass. So it's pretty much a watch this space to see what they're doing. Although, going by current estimations, it does look like Civ 7 might be on the cards. So that'd be nice to look forward to, if that is the case. So yeah, that's my ramble and update for the moment, because I don't normally comment a lot on these videos in ways that aren't about the game. So for many people who aren't watching this to the end, they probably won't even know these comments. Especially since by the time they go out and go uploaded, I mean, this would be a month. I'll already be working on whatever I've decided to do next anyway, so you'll already know about it. But hey, ho hum, go time travelling me. But what is there to say about this game? I mean, I am enjoying the music. I mean, the speed controls work, but for me, it feels kind of like you're rushing through the game if you are going to be using the speed controls to bypass everything. But that's the nature of these games. These games are always going to be front loaded, because it's the early game where you set your foundations for how things are going and you're building up and where all the challenges are, and the late game's always going to be more a case of just finishing off. Because in general, that's just how life is. You think about it, your childhood, your education, everything else, that's just intro and prologue to the day-to-day of where your life goes. You have the odd events about what to deal with, but the whole point is pretty much to try and achieve something stable. Because when you think about it, stability means success. Stability means that you're managing, you know, and you're managing relatively well. Oh, I can build a dome city. I've got don't have any colonists, but I can build a dome city. Okay. Yeah, nah. Go on then. I mean, do let me know if you'd like me to do another Let's Play of Per Aspera. Might wait to see if there's any other DLC coming out. It'll probably be a sandbox game where I'll literally try and uncover all the sites before I start terraforming. I mean, but without the story, I mean, apparently there are 3 endings, but I didn't quite get to exploring and using. I think if I'd have used the used the micro suns, or engaged, or found more of the sites to engage with Zen, then I'd have got the option for the techie intervention that I missed. So but hey, I've never been one for 100% in or achievement hunting. And it's hard to consider playing new games repeatedly unless it's something like Civ or Stellaris, simply because there's so many new games. I mean, I've got so many new games, I'm ridiculous. I've got my game catalogue between GOG, Steam, Epic free games, Ubisoft and Origin. I've got like over 2,000 games, and that's it. That's not bad when you think about how long I've been. Well, not how long I've been as a gamer, but more how long I've been using GOG, for example. Because it's been about 15 years now. So 2,000 games in 15 years. Isn't bad, especially since I don't have the sort of money to pick everything up as soon as it comes out just for the sake of buying it. Although that was more or less how I did build up my GOG catalogue, the weekly sales and stuff, before they started doing all the new indie games, and it was a curated collection of classics. It's interesting now, and I'll still do the GOG sales and see just how much I'm missing and how much I've actually got. But I mean, GOG basically strayed from their core ethic in many ways. So it lost what set it apart, and it's only because I've got the library. And it's like trying to compare it to Steam. Once you've done the step to Steam, you know, Steam is better. Simply because of the DRM that it can provide for, and the patching it can provide for modern indie games. So in fact, I'm actually finding myself picking up more and more of the old classic games as I spot them for sale on Steam, just because it's more convenient than GOG. Which is something I wouldn't have thought I'd have said 15 years ago. So, how times change. I'm wondering how to get here. Really. Don't really want to plonker down the landing site for those far resources. And it's too far. Unless I was to put a road and then take a road out. That might work. Of course, it's near enough to the chasm I could consider putting the bioplants round. How are we getting on? 8 or 12 for that. And for my seed ship, 3 of 12. Okay. Is that? Oh, I'm liking that's the seed ship. They're the seed ship plans. Basically creating a whole bunch of seed ships in orbit and then just sending them off in every direction from Mars till they hit random stars. And systems. That'd be worth knowing. I mean, can you imagine it? I'm gonna have to do it. I haven't really played much with Synthetic Dawn and Machine Empires, but I'll probably have to. Or Hive Minds. But I may have to do a. I'll see how the storyline goes, but it might be interesting to do a Amy and or Carmine Civilization for Stellaris. But I've got so many other options to explore with Stellaris, it's unreal. Suppose if I find a suitable resolution for Dungeon Village to record that, then Dungeon Village may be my third game. If that makes sense. I mean, I know I like the Kairosoft games because you basically more or less know what you're getting with a Kairosoft game. And their experiences have developed over time and they've become quite similar. So it's become very formulaic for a lot of things. You get the builder types, you get the restaurant manager types, you get the exploration types, the racing types, the sports types, the classroom types, etc, etc. I mean, between the stabilized aesthetic, the cast of characters, for the cameos, and the similarities in the gameplay, once you can see that they're quite good, if that's what you like. Which I do. There is very much a gotta collect them all vibe. Like I said, the only one I haven't played is Burger Bistro. But I don't expect that to be too different from, say, their sushi game, or Cafe Nippon, or Sushi Spinnery it's called. And they've got a game about ramen as well. It's generally a cooking stroke restaurant type game. So yeah. I mean, if I do record the Kairosoft series, I'll probably, after I've done Dungeon Village, just to show you, because that is by far my favourite game and is ideal for a test. I'd probably do the one that started it all, which was Game Dev Story, because it's quite simple and quite basic, but you can see the formula developing. And unfortunately, if I was to play that later after playing all the other games, it's going to be, it can be a bit like, why are you playing that now? What's so good about it? As you forget that it was a game that was released way back. I think it was it could have been, I think it's even before 2010. It's the first game from Kairosoft, and that's what got them their name, because it was in top 10 games for your Android back when it came out. Or not the Android, but back when Game Dev Story came out. So in a way, the established success of Kairosoft is because that game was so good and showed that as long as the gameplay is good, people would love pixel art graphics, and demonstrated the many opportunities of Android as a gaming platform. That didn't have to, in a model that didn't have to be free to play. Just to try and make it be a success. Anyway, enough of me rambling about nonsense. I am going to save it here. This has been Vane commenting over Let's Play Per Aspera. If you like what you see in here, be sure to like, subscribe, share and comment. Please consider sponsoring me on Patreon. It's only £1 a month and it helps me make more of these videos. And when I remember and make big decisions, although I will express my musings, I do tend to allow you, the patrons, the choice of letting me know what sort of games they want me to cover. You know, any old classics, anything they want to see repeats of, especially if there's multiple options, stuff like that. So yeah, And until next time, goodbye.